This episode is brought to you by Airbus, U.S. Space and Defense. Marine Corps Expeditionary Advanced Base operations require logistical support when and where Marines need it. The Airbus UH-72 Unmanned Logistics Connector provides proven performance and reliability alongside next-generation autonomous capability. As the Marine Corps revolutionizes warfare, the UH-72 Unmanned Logistics Connector evolves to support it. Visit AirbusUS.com to learn more. That's AirbusUS.com. Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners, thank you for joining us. Day 3 of Modern Day Marine. We are here on the showroom floor. Come by and see us. And for those who have, thank you so much for coming by and saying hi. Thank you for your continued support. And as we kick off day 3, I'm really excited to be welcoming Lieutenant Colonel retired Janet Keech from Oshkosh. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is really great. It's a great way to start the day. You are the Senior Director for Program Management for Oshkosh, is that correct?
I am, yep.
And you retired in 2009 as a Lieutenant Colonel.
Right.
Logistician?
Yes.
Cool. Well, I guess let's sort of just dive into your story before we start talking about some of the great things that Oshkosh is doing. Where are you from, and what was sort of your path to the Marine Corps? Did you come from a military family, and so the Marine Corps was just sort of the natural progression, or was this like when you said, "Hey, I'm joining the Marine Corps," your family was like, "You're gonna do like Top Gun"? You're like, "You're gonna do what?"
It did come a little bit out of left field, I think, for my family, but being at Oshkosh is kind of like coming home. I did grow up in the Midwest in Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin, and my dad and my uncle had both been in the Navy during World War II.
Oh.
So my dad was kind of on the young end of that, and he didn't make it a career, but definitely heard those stories. And just in general, I would say service was important to our family as a whole. My mom was a teacher, and my dad was in a law career, but on the public side.
Okay.
So public defender, corporation counsel, things like that. And then I guess why the military? I was the youngest of 5 kids, and really just wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
And so I originally was thinking potentially going into the Navy, but I applied for a Marine Corps ROTC scholarship and ended up at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and went through the ROTC program there.
And was that a culture shock for you? I mean, going from Wisconsin to North Carolina?
My sister had moved to North Carolina to the Raleigh area when I was 16. So I had been down and visited her a lot and had seen the campus and just really wanted to go to a different part of the country.
Yeah, it's an amazing school.
It was. And that program's near and dear to my heart. I met my husband there, so he was commissioned out of that program as well. And then we have a nephew that also, my sister's son, went through the program and commissioned as a Marine Corps officer. And then our own son just commissioned there a couple of years ago, and he's a first lieutenant infantry officer now down in Camp Lejeune. So we've got a little bit of a family legacy going at that school. Yeah, Camp Lejeune,
not too far away, right?
Exactly, right. So, but yeah, and the idea of service, my husband left the Marine Corps and went into a field in education, and then our daughter is also in her own service of being a special education teacher in an elementary school.
Oh, wow, nice.
So it's a little bit of a family legacy that I'm proud of.
How cool. So you go through the Marine ROTC program, commission, TBS, all that good stuff. Where was your first duty station? Were you also Camp Lejeune, right?
I was.
As a logistician?
I chose logistics. That was my first choice, and I was really excited about the idea of doing something a little bit different at each different duty station. There were a lot of different areas and angles that logistics can take, and that interested me and excited me. So my first job was at the FSSG, which is no longer there, at Camp Lejeune, with 2nd Supply Battalion. So my career ended up being pretty atypical. I went where the Marine Corps needed me, but the Marine Corps needed me in some kind of unusual progression. So I went from Camp Lejeune at the Supply Battalion as the S4 officer, and then I was a company commander there. Then I went to facilities back up in Quantico, and that was interesting because I learned a lot about all the environmental aspects. I was in the environmental and natural resources area of facilities, So, understanding just having this management of these extensive bases that we have all over the country and all over the world, and managing the resources there. And then from there, I went down to Parris Island, was a series commander and company commander, and then with the regimental staff down at Parris Island. Then I kind of took a turn and went out to the West Coast. So I'd been all East Coast up to that point, and then went to Naval Postgraduate School.
Okay.
And my program there was aligned with logistics, so it was material logistics management. And from my payback tour for that degree was going to Marine Corps Systems Command and doing acquisition logistics. So that really opened my eyes to a new area of just the Marine Corps and kind of this world that we're seeing here at Modern Day Marine, of how we get new programs in the door, how do we sustain them and support them once they're out there. And
POM cycles and
exactly,
all that,
all the budgeting.
Yeah.
So, and then I went back to the fleet. So that was, my career was pretty atypical because I was in a lot of non-fleet tours.
Mm-hmm.
Went out to 3 MEF in Okinawa, and we were there as a family and just absolutely loved that experience.
How cool.
Our friends there and our coworkers became family,
Mm-hmm.
and we heard the assistant commandant talk last night about all the different places that we are as a Marine Corps, and it was the same thing then, doing exercises and real world operations with all of our partner foreign militaries there in Korea, the Philippines, Thailand. So just a lot of travel and a lot of understanding of that part of the world.
Yeah, and logistics required to do all of those things, because to do, Cobra Gold and KITP and Bala Katan, sure, the Muse sometimes support those things. Sometimes it's, forces that are coming, the GCE element that's there on the island, but somebody's got to get there. Somebody's got to get them home. You got to figure out how to feed them. Because they'll literally eat themselves to death if you don't. So.
And almost every year, whenever we did UFL in Korea, there was always a typhoon that came right around that time that messed up all the transportation plans. But you really do get an understanding of the challenges of that theater in general, and all the things that the Corps is facing today and looking at and trying to understand that.
Yeah, how cool. Yeah, a little bit similarities as an Amtracker going to Oki. So 9/11 had just happened. We were in the chute, and the idea was they were going to send us to Oki to sort of as a staging area, because we thought the Afghan OEF-1 was just going to be an absolute shit show. I mean, and rightfully so. We're like doing it basically a fly-in echelon over India and Pakistan to go into Afghanistan. Like, this is going to be rough. And so we were just sort of on standby. Well, the Muse and everybody, that went extremely well. And so now, all right, what do we give these guys who are really combat ready? So they started doing that. They sent us to, Bala Katan, Cobra Gold, all these things. We were partnering and working with the Japanese, on the mainland with Camp Fuji and all that good stuff. Anyways, that's a really long way of saying, we had to, as the company and then as CAB, figure out how are we going to support all of these, we're basically splitting the company, and we'll see you again maybe in a couple months. And how then are we going to support all these things? The Camp Fuji one is the one I remember the most, because how are we going to get to all of our things that we need there? They had sort of a standing equipment set, but it wasn't what we're taking more people than we had gear for. And so then we started using the HSVs and all that stuff, and the puke fest of going through the Sea of Japan on that bad boy. Oh, good Lord. But I guess a really long way now at this point of saying, what you were doing there, obviously extremely important, but it gave you a ton of experience for what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So, it seems like you're ideally fitted, having seen acquisition logistics at sort of the academic level, having put it into practice at 3 MEF, and now here are Oshkosh as the senior director for program management. It seems like am I assuming too much, or this is about kind of how you see it as well?
It's been a really good fit for me. It's definitely always a learning curve, and what's always funny too is even in the Marine Corps, any different area you go to, the same acronyms mean completely different
Tell me
things.
about
So
it. Tell me.
you can be on one realm talking about acronyms and somebody else is thinking something completely different. So,
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here at Oshkosh. But I transitioned. My last Marine Corps billet was at the Marquette Naval ROTC, so that was really
cool.
rewarding as well. I was the executive officer there, and just seeing how far the ROTC program had come in terms of preparing our young men and women for going out for careers as Naval and Marine Corps officers. So I was already in the Wisconsin area, and similar to what I've heard in some of the other podcasts and what we often talk about is just what a small world the Marine Corps is.
Mm-hmm.
And an officer that I worked very closely with in the Marine Corps was one of the vice presidents of programs at Oshkosh and reached out and said, I know you're in the area. Are you interested in coming and working here? And at the time, I didn't jump in 100% with both feet because my kids were still in school, and I live a little distance away from Oshkosh. So I came on board as a consultant and worked a lot in the bid and proposal and then in some process improvement types of areas. And it enabled me to really get to know the company, which was nice because when I did...
Yeah, because you're sort of in but not fully invested, so you're able to like kind of see things objectively and from a kind of a 35,000 foot
Exactly.
level. So, right? Yeah.
And it's so important when you leave the military to find that right fit.
We talked about that so much, and I think it's a very real thing. And you know, I will say for me, I feel so lucky to have found a home here at the MCA. But you know, every time we're joking around about, you know, LinkedIn is my only social media stuff. But I mean, every time I see this thing like, hey, I'm starting a new position as such and such, I really want to say like, that's awesome. I'm really happy for you. But that's also like the third post you've had in 2 years that's done that. Like, so yeah, finding that place that you feel comfortable and feel like it's your next phase of your life, not just sort of a stepping stone, right? That's
exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really about what the values of the organization are, what they represent, and Oshkosh is very aligned with that. I mean, it's you walk through, especially in defense, but you walk through the hallways and there's vignettes and testimonials up about from parents or from former service members who say, you know, I wouldn't have been able to come home safely except for what you did and how you built this vehicle. And that's always emphasized, is that our equipment needs to be able to allow the soldiers and Marines to go out and do their missions effectively, but then even more importantly, come home safely.
Absolutely.
And that just really resonates with throughout your whole Marine Corps career. It's all about taking care of your Marines, and that aligned with that very well.
Yeah,
so
you're still doing that. Yeah, that's
exactly.
awesome. Yeah, I was just joking around. You know, we're talking about kids or whatever, and like my first, before the MRAP, it was like, Oshkosh, those are the overalls that I buy for my kids, right? Like Oshkosh, Bagosh.
Yes. So many people ask us that question.
Yeah. And so I think they're as much as you guys do. I mean, it's such a I guess there's a holistic aspect to what Oshkosh does. But yeah, I mean, what you guys are doing as far as force protection and enabling capability, it's commendable for sure. And so I guess along those lines, we were talking about before we started recording one of the programs that you were overseeing, the Rogue Nemesis. Could you tell us a little bit about it? Because I could probably go on and on. Because as the deputy editor for the Gazette, it becomes such a prolific weapons platform and such a cornerstone to what we're doing that the name of the weapons platform has almost become synonymous with the capability itself.
Yeah, we're very excited about that program and partnering with the Marine Corps on that. We've been working with the Marine Corps on this capability since 2018, and it's back to acronym soup. So, I mean, the Rogue stands for Remotely Operated Ground Unit for Expeditionary Fires, and that's the platform, and that's the Oshkosh content. And then the Nemesis is the whole system that also has the weapon system with it.
Which is an amazing acronym, by the way.
Yes, yes. And that
Nemesis, like someone got a raise for coming up with that one. That's
and of course it has
amazing.
expeditionary in it again, but Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System. So that system as a whole, to me, really just, we talk all the time about shoot, move, and communicate as Marines. And if you look at, from that aspect, from that element, it takes a JLTV that for the move portion. So it's a proven payload, a proven off-road mobility, extremely capable vehicle. And that truck can go anywhere. And then it pairs that with the remote aspect of it. So now you can push that vehicle out, you get that flexibility, and you can either teleoperate it or you can use a leader-follower system. And it's got all of that, awareness of its surroundings with all the cameras and the radars that are on that system. And then the shoot is obviously, it is to a certain extent payload agnostic. I mean, the Marine Corps has plans to use that with other weapon systems as well for the precision weapons, but we are able to pair it with this very great capability for, ship deterrence. So, it's just, it really takes those three things and puts them together and giving the Marine Corps a great capability that just aligns very much with the Marine Corps' future plans.
Sure. And I mean, you use that word, I don't know if you remember the Pee Wee Herman show, but you say the word of the day and everybody goes, ah, but you said deterrent, so I'm like, ah, and that, I mean, that's the game that we're in, right? It was deterrence, and without a known commodity that's providing reliable capability, deterrence, it briefs well, it looks good on a PowerPoint, but if you can't actually bring a foot to ass,
right?
What are we talking about, right? And,
right.
So what do you, as we look here at Modern Day Marine, obviously, you could almost get into sensory overload with all of the wonder of possibility. Oh my gosh, look at the, I think I saw something down here. I was joking around, Skynet is real. If this becomes sentient, we're all doomed. But what are you guys looking at when you see in pairing? I know the Marine Corps is big on industry partnership. How do you guys see within industry that pairing, modularity, modernization with Rogue Nemesis? Is that something you guys are cognizant of? How do you see that integrating in that way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously a lot of software, and that is it's got to be constant communication with the Marine Corps and what their needs are, and constant updating of those kinds of technologies.
Sure.
We've had so many people walk by and they'll look at the vehicle and then suddenly do a double take and say, well, where's the driver? And the answer, it's kind of funny because the driver's anywhere.
Right.
I mean, the teleop, they've basically got remote controllers, and these days training a Marine to use that is probably just as easy to train them to drive something because they're so familiar with that technology.
100%,
so,
yeah. There's probably more Marines that can do virtual driving quicker than they can do actual physical driving, right?
Exactly. So they're very familiar with that. So our customer for these first Nemesis systems is 3rd MLR, and they've had these since
that's the Marine Littoral Regiment, right?
Correct,
which was experimental, but now is full on.
Right.
Yeah.
So they've had 6 of these systems since last August, and there's orders in place, and we're going to be rapidly providing them with additional systems for their low-rate initial production. But they just completed their IoT&E testing, so we have not gotten the results of that yet, but as with any testing, we're expecting that there'll be feedback that comes back, that we'll be partnering with them and making continuous improvements. And then, some of the new capability that's coming out with that autonomy is pretty amazing. It's got the obstacle detection, which continues to get better and better. It's got the waypoint ability where you can actually map out routes. And then the leader follower is a one-to-many. So you have a leader, and then you have all the vehicles following along in a convoy, but then you can individually send them out to where their dispersed areas need to be, and they can do that without putting Marines in harm's way of having to be with them when this is firing, and then bring them back. So there's just a lot of benefits from a survivability for both the Marines, which is obviously the critical piece, and then the equipment itself, which you want to, be able to maintain that capability for as long as possible and keep it safe as well.
Sure. And then, like, logistically, as you well know, it's not just a matter of weight, it's cube, right? Like, so, I mean, it's got to get to where you can actually employ it, not everything, we grew up, well, at least I did much of my growing up in the Iron Mountain world of the Alisads and the Leathernecks and the Dwyers and things where, the concept is use it, expend it when you need it. Well, need becomes very fuzzy
right.
when you're in, especially doing counterinsurgency. But I always could do that without having to necessarily be as disciplined as I should, because I could always go back to Al-Assad and get more, because C-130s and C-5s are just coming in at the cyclic rate, bringing us new stuff. We don't live in that world anymore.
Right.
So cube and weight is huge. And so, like you're saying, with this being on the JLTV chassis, you really have the flexibility. We were talking a little bit about the HSV, right? Like, you could put these things on almost anything that is a surface. I'm sure there's even probably some subsurface delivery systems, because it doesn't take up a ton of that cube and weight issues that you have with, like, say, an M1 Abrams, or you name the other platforms, right?
Exactly. It's got all those transportability requirements of the JLTV and the commonality of parts. So you've got that as well. And
you don't have to have those, like, this niche PEB,
right?
That if you have to displace, you're like, well, we have to take this stuff with us, because then you have, like you said, it's
one more supply chain piece to keep track of.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's nice is the command and control of the weapon system is separated from the command and control of the vehicle. So it really does become a platform that is payload agnostic, and you can put, as the Marine Corps finds new uses for it, or other services, you could use the same platform, the same technology, and have even more of that commonality.
Yeah. All of these things are extremely important, and obviously all of the industry partners here are well aware of what force design is doing, what expedition advanced basing operations means, what a stand-in force is supposed to be doing. But it seems like a lot of what you guys have, especially with this Rogue Nemesis system, is, like we mentioned, like sort of a cornerstone piece. So it's really great to hear all about what it actually is. Because as the deputy editor of the Gazette, I see plenty of folks talking about it, and I get it sort of at like the 35,000 foot level. But it's really cool to hear some of the specifics of what this platform does. So,
well, definitely come over and take a look. And our software suppliers, Forterra, are here doing some demos as well with some of the autonomy capabilities. So.
Yeah, be sure to come by. Well, thank you for coming by and seeing us and spending some time. This has been really great. And best of luck to you guys and everything. And look forward to seeing what Rogue Nemesis is going to do as far as giving us that deterrent capability.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks. We would like to thank Airbus U.S. Space and Defense for sponsoring this episode. Marine Corps Expeditionary Advanced Base operations require logistical support when and where Marines need it. The Airbus UH-72 Unmanned Logistics Connector provides proven performance and reliability alongside next-generation autonomous capability. As the Marine Corps revolutionizes warfare, the UH-72 Unmanned Logistics Connector evolves to support it. Visit AirbusUS.com to learn more. That's AirbusUS.com. Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices and contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Lichman, William Trudy, and our guests. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.